Good afternoon. My name is Karlo.Salgado. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been working in financial services now almost 13 years. Started my own company in this industry back in July 2011 and been doing this for a long time now. And today I'm not going to hit you with so much strategy or what's the best investment. I want to really just get you an overall. We're going to talk some strategy. We're going to mostly talk a lot psychology. I've met literally with thousands of people here in the San Diego area, which is where I'm from, which is where my business operates. And the biggest thing that I see with people is not really understanding the bigger picture of what's happening with money. And so I titled this webinar appropriately is what the 2% know that the 90% don't know. And I really want to break that down for you because I don't care where you're at in the spectrum of money. Because right now we're at a time in 2018 where I have met a lot of people that make good money, but they have no time. And then on the flip side of that, I meet a lot of people that have a lot of time, but they have no money. And so the answer or the questions we want to ask ourselves now is how do I get time and money together so that I can really control the quality of my life? And for that, you got to have the education. And what you're going to learn today, I promise you, they're not teaching in school. My background is military. I was in the Marine Corps for 15 years and I never went to college, so that was never my avenue. But for the longest time, I thought that if you went and got higher learning, that they actually taught this in school for many years. And it turns out they don't teach anything about how money really works in school. And how important is money? How important is financial education to your overall well-being, to your overall quality of life? It is absolutely vital. So this stuff that I'm going to share with you today, you need to really understand it. Now, I'm going to go into a very general, this is going to be more of a macro view today, but I believe it's going to be really valuable on what's really going on right now. What's really going on in terms of money? And why is this important to me? Why is it important to my own well-being, my family, my future, my planning? It's extremely important. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. I'm confident that by the end of this webinar, you're going to get a ton of value. And hopefully my outcome is that this is going to be enlightening, that you're going to be like, wow, this is really true. So I want to start off, I'm going to go old school, just the whiteboard. And I want to start off right now with just 98%, right? And right now, 98% of our society makes under $250,000 a year. Now that used to be 100,000, but because of inflation, the new 100,000 actually 250,000. Because if you're making 100,000 here in California, you're middle class, right? I think we all know that it's not a lot of money these days. So 98% of people fall under that income bracket. So the question I want to start off with you is, I'm talking for everyday working class people, 9 to 5, work hard, overtime if possible. Where do most people, if they save money, where do most people save it at? What types of accounts? If you said banks, then you're absolutely right. I want to lift the veil on this whole system. You know, there's a bank on every corner. There's who knows how many banks in our country. There's got to be probably over 400, 800 banks. But the three power players would be Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America. Those guys run the show. They're on every corner, and banks included. Matter of fact, if you go to any downtown in the country, any major metropolis, if you ever want to know what a society values, pay attention to the buildings that it builds. If you go to our downtown here in San Diego in the Gaslamp Quarter, you look at these beautiful downtown buildings that we have, pretty sure you're going to find a bank name tattooed on the top of them. That's a sign of power. That's a sign of prestige. They're on every corner. But we never really question why. Why do we put all our money in these institutions? And I ask people this, why? What does the bank do for you that you couldn't do for yourself? A lot of people can't answer that question. So let's talk about that. So we got banks on every corner, right? So what kind of accounts do we have in banks? We have checking accounts. What do you earn in a checking account in terms of interest on your money? You earn nothing, okay? Sometimes you actually have to pay for a checking account. Now, some of you may earn something depending on the amount of money you have in there, depending on the deal you have with your bank, but it's still peanuts. So we earn nothing. We also have savings accounts. What does a savings account pay you in terms of interest? National average right now, you're looking at about 0.02%. You're looking at 2 cents for every $100 you got in there. A lot of money, right? You also have other vehicles like money markets, CDs, And right now we're still in a very much low interest environment. So you're lucky right now if you're earning maybe 1% in a CD or a money market type vehicle. And there are trillions of dollars in these vehicles, right? That's why they're on every corner, because they want your money. So what we're really starting to question now in our society is this whole concept. This is you, right? This is you, me, and everybody. We trade this. This is an hour of our time for this artificial number, whatever that means, right? So whatever you're getting paid per hour. That is where this paradigm right here, trading time for money, is dying a very slow and miserable, torturous death right now. So the question I have for you is the cost of living, is it going up or down right now? What do you think? The answer is true if you said it's going up. The cost of living, as we know, inflation is kind of close to 4%. So the cost of living is higher than it's ever been. So my point is that if the cost of living is close to 4%, and people say if they save money, where do they put it at? They put it right here in a savings account. It's just simple math at this point. So if I'm earning 0.02% in a savings account and the cost of living is 4, my money is being devalued, meaning I'm losing money. Does that make sense? That's what's happening to so many people. We're working harder than we ever have for our paycheck. Overtime. I know people that work 50, 60 hours a week, but are we any closer to our financial goals? The answer is no, because the cost of living is eating up our money. So my point is, you can trade more time to get as much money as you can, but you cannot trade enough time for this artificial number you're getting per hour to keep up with this cost of living. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And unfortunately, this is what's affecting so many people right now, is we're working harder than we have ever have, and we're experiencing less quality of life. You know, and bringing back now, we have the millennial generation, which is graduating college. We have an epidemic of student loan debt. Here in my office, I can't tell you how many people I've met in their mid to late 20s who are just riddled down with student loan debt from $50,000 to $100,000. And we're really starting to wonder, how valuable is a college education? Now, I'm all for education. I'm just for the right education. They need to start teaching this stuff. And this is the purpose of this video. That's the purpose of why we're doing this, because we want to be a solution to a big problem, and there's not enough financial education out there. Do you agree that there's a lack of financial education out there? We're so inundated with websites and opinions, and you know, everyone's got an opinion on where you should put your money, but very few people understand what is really taking place. So I wanted to break it down for you, and from a very common sense standpoint, so that you can discern, so that you can make your own opinion, so that you can make your own choices, so that you can be empowered. Because I'm telling you, I never learned any of this stuff in school. And granted, I didn't go to college. And for people that I met that even graduated with finance degrees, they're not even really understand this stuff either. So you're getting it right now, because I hope you really can grasp it and make the right choices so that you can put yourself or your family in a better financial place. So let's talk about the flip side of the coin, right? The top 2% makes $250,000 or more. This industry, financial services, has been around for eons, but depending on what side of the fence you grew up on means were you catered to by this industry. So have you ever heard of companies like Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Charles Schwab, Edward Jones? There's so many. And they're great companies. I'm not taking away from these companies, but they never came to my house. Okay, my family, my dad never got a call from a broker to say, hey, you know, it's about that time. I'm going to go talk about my investments in my future. And the reason he never got that call, because he did not make this kind of money. So the industry is going to cater to the side that they're looking for at least a minimum of $250,000 of investable assets. And if you make that kind of money, then you get the class, you get catered to, you get the education, you get to know how to invest. But for most people, they never get that class. Why? Because they don't make that kind of money. So what's really going on over here, right? So these companies, they focus on this market. Why? Because that's where the money is. And they teach these people how to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, which are pretty much a combination of stocks and bonds and other things. Also big in real estate investing. Okay, there's more things, but these are the big ones. And what they have averaged over time here is anywhere between 6 and 12% on their money in terms of performance. Now, that's not guaranteed every year, but over time, it has done well above that, sometimes above 12%, but this is kind of the medium. So notice how the average performance is above inflation, because ideally the market always outpaces inflation. Now, when the market does not outpace inflation, that's called recession. That's a whole other cup of coffee, but this is what's happening right now. So my point is that, let's say you're earning 12% on your money, which is awesome, and the cost of living is 4. So if you're earning 12% on your money and the cost of living is 4, even after inflation, you're still earning 8%. If you're earning 12% on your money and the cost of living is 4, understand that inflation impacts everybody. But if I'm taking 12 steps forward and 4 steps back, I'm still earning 8% on my money, which is pretty good. That means I'm earning 8 cents on the dollar for my money just sitting there. And for every dollar I have that's just sitting there, it generates another 8 cents per dollar, vice losing 4 cents per dollar for it just sitting there. This is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's exactly what's taking place right now. So America, which after World War II, we generated the strongest middle class in the world. Now what's starting to happen is that middle class is slowly but surely being disseminated. And we're beginning to become a country of haves and have-nots. Now we look at our neighboring country here, Mexico. I've been amazed growing up here in San Diego on how many millionaires that I have met or heard of that just live right across this border. Now, when you cross the border in TJ, you would never even think that because of how much poverty exists. My point is that the middle class is completely disseminated, that there is no middle class. You're either a have or a have not. And that's really important. So my passion is, I believe that a middle class is the bridge, right? So if I could put it in a picture, so if we have lower class and we have upper class, then the middle class represents the bridge. And why is the bridge important? Because if you knock out the bridge, we no longer have access. And what makes America great is that you can start here with nothing, and through desire and hard work, you can go out there and become where you want to be financially. This is still the greatest country in the world. This has changed form, meaning what used to be safe has now become the new risky. And what used to be considered risky has now become the new safe. Meaning that this used to be luxury knowledge for people that really valued money and were investors. Now it is absolute necessity. If you don't understand how money works, you're not going to get yourself where you want to be. Why? Because this is no longer working. So what does this mean? Because people say, well, how am I losing money, Carlo? Granted, I know I'm not making a lot of money, but I have $1,000 in my savings account. I've never lost a dime. I say, you're not losing it like a stock market crash where you log in tomorrow and instead of having 1,000, there's now 700 and you lost $300. You would still have $1,000, but how did I lose the money? You lost it because your money no longer has buying power. And how so? It's the invisible expense. When you go to the grocery store and you need to buy groceries, the cost of milk, bread, and eggs went up in price. The cost of gasoline went up in price. Rents are going up. Your landlord raised your rent. Real estate is going up. So all our necessities for us to have a good quality of life, those prices are going up. But your money that you're trading time for is not keeping up with that rising cost. So we're working harder, and experiencing less. Now, they're on every corner, right? They're the biggest buildings in downtown, wherever you live. How do banks make money? And this is a question I have for everybody, and most people don't know, right? How do banks make money? They simply just flip your money. A bank would cease to have the power it has if it cannot leverage, right? So they take your money and they purposely pay you these low interest rates, and they just loan it right back to you in the form of a loan, whether it's a personal loan, a credit card, car loan, home mortgages, all that stuff. They just loan your money back to you at a higher interest rate, and now you're paying it back with interest. And that's the whole game right now. If you are in a position where you're just stuck paying interest every month, that's like the most formal contemporary slavery that exists. It's real. Okay, and this is why this stuff is important to know, because knowledge is power, but knowledge is only power when you apply it. You have to apply these things. And that's why we're so passionate about giving this information out there, because it needs to be taught. Now, again, top 2%, they're making this kind of money. And notice this, these are realistic numbers, guys. This is absolutely true. 90% and 2%. You know, it'd be different if it was 70-30, 60-40, but 90, that means if you put 100 people on the sidewalk outside, only 2 out of those 100 people statistically say, you know, money's not an issue for me. I'm okay with money. So that means it has become common everyday psychology for money to always be a struggle. In the greatest country in the world where there's so much opportunity, there's so much low-hanging fruit. Why is that? And that's what we want to talk about. There's 2 things that you need to understand about money. These are the 2 things that really are keeping people stuck. Number 1 is strategy. So you can know a lot about money, but if you have the wrong strategy, you're going to fail. So strategy is vital to what you're trying to do, right? And there's many strategies to get ahead financially. Things that we believe people need to know that our system's not teaching us is taxes. People do not understand how taxes work. And a question I have that I ask many people, that if you knew of a legal and viable way that come tax season that you can pay less in taxes to the government and keep more for yourself and your family so that you can save and invest more, would you do it? And the answer is undoubtedly yes. But most people don't do that. I deal a lot with middle-class clients, and you know what the biggest savings for emergency savings for middle-class people that I have come across? Their tax return. And what people don't realize is that they set up their taxes so that the most can be taken out so they can get a bigger return come tax season. And what they don't understand is all you're doing is giving Uncle Sam an interest-free loan. What you're telling Uncle Sam is like, you know what? I don't know how to manage my money. You take my money. Just give it back to me so you can play with it and invest it, because I have no idea what I'm doing with it. That's what's happening on a large scale. Why? Because we are financially illiterate as a country. It's sad, but it's the absolute truth. Would you agree that 75% of what keeps most people up at night in terms of anxiety and stress is financially related? I would say yeah. Most of the things that I deal with on a daily basis when it comes to clients is finances, right? Everything stems from this, right? This is why if you need to really adhere to this stuff and you need to make it your goal. I'm not here to pitch you anything. I'm not here to sell anything other than for you to get a grasp understanding of what this can do for you if you really apply it. It can absolutely transform your life. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need to go sit in a college classroom for 4 years to give you a degree. So you're like, you know what? I went to college, so now I'm qualified to know this stuff. You'll be amazed at how many people that I have met here that are immigrants to this country and know way more about capitalism and money than the people that grew up in this country. It's been staggering to me, mind-blowing. And I think it's time now that this knowledge be expressed and shared so that everybody has access. That's the beauty of the information age that we're now in, right? This is why we're here. Look at the way, I mean, I've been in this industry 13 years. I couldn't imagine 13 years ago that this was a medium of expression to go out there and share ideas. And now we can reach people in the world because we're now in the information age. This is why college is dying a slow and miserable death, because unfortunately, the education system is still stuck in an industrial age complex. It's still kind of weeding people through it like a factory, as if people are going to go work in a factory like it originally started. And if you do your research, you know that the college system was set up to recruit people to work in the factories. Think about the way our system is set up. We're being trained. We're being wired to follow orders. All I heard my whole life is go to school, get a good education, get a degree, so you can go get a good what? Exactly, go get a good job. Go work for an entrepreneur. Go work for a business owner. Go put your blood, sweat, and tears into someone else's goals and dreams to help them succeed so that you just get a paycheck so that you can get by per month. That's not living, guys, and that no longer exists. You know, and so what I'm trying to tell you is that instead of teaching people how to climb the corporate ladder, we need to go back to the foundations of what started this country, and we need to teach people how to own the ladder. But first thing is first you owning your own finances and you taking control of your own financial state. That's what this is about. So we want to give you the strategy. We want to teach you how taxes work. You need to understand interest rates. Again, we're financially illiterate as a country because we don't know how to read numbers. And how many times are people duped into sales that they don't need because they don't know how to read contracts? The number one thing I deal with baby boomers who are retiring at a massive level right now is they hand me their 401k and IRA statements, and it might as well be a Chinese dictionary. They have no clue what they're looking at. They don't even open their statements because they don't know how to read them. They don't understand them. Why? Because we don't get this stuff. And if you really understood how simple it is, you'd be able to go read numbers. I love people, right? And when I meet a great salesperson that offers me a proposal, I say, look, I like you, dude, but show me the numbers. Right? And if you know how to read numbers, then you can discern whether something is a good investment or not. That's what we have to teach, right? We have to teach this country how to read numbers. That's what I want to do with you here, is understand interest rates. Okay, we also have to understand investments. Most people don't understand investments, right? We have people graduating college right now, and they don't know the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k. And is that important? Hell yeah, it is. It's very important to understand that. They need to be teaching that stuff in 6th grade. But we don't know it on a collective level, right? So we want to teach that, right? So that's the purpose of the value that we want to start bringing here. We also want to teach the art of passive income. And if you don't know what passive income is, I suggest you stop after this webinar and start looking it up, because it is the future. If you want to have quality of life, and people say, Carlo, I work so hard for my money, but how much time do you spend with your family? How much time do you get to do the things you want to do? I don't, because I'm so busy working. I make good money, but I have no time. And then the flip side, I have a lot of time, but I have no money. And dude, you got to understand how passive income works. And there's many ways to generate passive income. You know, nowadays, the friend of mine that's helping me set up all this webinar stuff online. There's so many ways you can generate online. You can start an online business. Okay, you can go into real estate investing. You can start a company. There's so many ways to start learning how to get passive income. And passive income is that whole make money while you sleep. And if you really understood the power of passive income, you'd really, right, get off your ass to go learn it, because you realize how important it really is to modern day society. Because here's the truth about money, right? And this is beyond the glam and glitz of what money gives you. As an entrepreneur, I don't like selling what money gives you, the cars, the trips, the jewelry. That's not my forte. Look, because you can lose money. I think many of us have lost money, but you can get money back, but you do not get back time. Time is the most valuable currency that we all have. And not you, me, or anybody knows how much of it we have left on this place. And so the question I have for you, that if money was not an issue, how would you be investing your time? Would you be doing what you're doing now? Now, I'm learning a lot from baby boomers who are near retirement, waking up to the fact that what I've been doing for the last 20 years is not what I've ever wanted to do. That's really an awake. That's a huge dose of psychological coffee, right? I'm like, wow, right? And that's the last thing I want. I don't want to be 65 and be like, well, now I can finally travel and live my life. Nah, life is too short. Why money is important? It's because it is a representation of time. And none of us know how much we have left. And that's why you got to get this stuff. You got to internalize this stuff. Because when people say to me, no, Carlo, money's not important to me. You might as well, what you're really telling me is like, my time is not important. So when people say money's not important to me, I'm like, so what you're telling me is, if money were not an issue, would you be doing what you're doing now? No. Then don't tell me money's not important. Because you're doing something you don't want to do for money. So money is very important. It is absolutely vital. So you need to start changing that. And the biggest thing that we want to teach is capitalism. It's funny how we as Americans, we grow up in this country through our education system. I grew up here. I probably learned that word on a history exam in comparison to what is socialism and communism. But we don't teach capitalism in this country. And it's funny, you know who knows capitalism the most? Immigrants. You know, that's why they come here. That's why immigrants come to this country, because of capitalism, because of the free enterprise system. And most people are like, I don't know what capitalism is, right? It is the law of supply and demand, right? And if you don't understand that, you got to understand it, right? And it is about adding value. You know, so a very simple example, if I'm craving a Subway sandwich and I go to a plaza on one of these street corners here and I see a Jersey Mike's, a Quiznos, or a Subway, and I have a dilemma, I'm like, which one do I want? The one I choose is based on capitalism, because the one I feel is going to give me the most value. We practice capitalism every day. If you bought something today and as soon as you paid for it, there was a thank you, you just practice trade. That's capitalism, right? And it's important to understand capitalism, right? Because if you understand how capitalism works, then you can get in the way and have money start flowing to you. And so we live in a country of great opportunity. But most people, everyone's like, Carlo, I need to make more money. I need more money. The better question to ask is, how do I solve more problems? If you solve more problems, you will make more money because people pay in this country to have their problems solved. How many times have you pulled out your debit card in the last 7 to 10 days because of something that was a challenge or a problem that you needed to solve? And the solution was why you paid for it. That was the enterprise. That's what they profit for. So instead of saying, how do I make more money? Saying, how can I solve more problems? And I'm doing it through this stage because right now, this is one of the biggest problems around. In my industry, the average age right now is 59 years old. They're retiring by the droves, but yet we have the biggest demand for financial education there has ever been. Why? Because of the baby boomers. Right now, we have 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day, and will be so probably for the next 20 plus years. And many of them, if you look at the average assets that a baby boomer in middle class America has, $50,000 to $100,000. How far is that going to get you? So most people did not plan. There's so many people right now that, you know what the number one retirement plan for many people retiring right now? Unfortunately, it's the truth. Social Security. You might as well call it social insecurity. The average right now in California is $1,200 per month. And $1,200 per month, if that's all you have to your name, doesn't even get you rent in the hood here. Which is why you see so many people that are going to be working in their 60s and 70s. They're spending their golden years in the golden arches. They're working in fast food. They're working in retail. They're working at Walmart. Why? Because they're not prepared to retire. And that's important, right? And I don't want to be like that, and you don't either. And if you are in that position, there is hope for you still, but you have to make different choices. First things first is you have to start internalizing this content, right? So capitalism is important. You need to understand how capitalism works. It is the law of supply and demand. You got to understand it. So number one is strategy. Number two, this is my favorite because this is the biggest reason what's keeping people from going from here to here is psychology. Psychology is why most people struggle. It's always puzzled me is, have you ever met people that they know a lot about money? I mean, they know everything: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, investing. They probably have an MBA from a great school. They did all the things that you feel like based on accomplishments, that's successful, but it doesn't show up in the results. Like, how is it that you can be so smart and have all these accolades and accomplishments, but get results as if you're so stupid? And it's not that they're stupid. It's just that they have adopted, they have some programs in here that just, they got to get rid of. And that's where psychology comes in. Your attitudes, your habits, and beliefs about money are hurting you. Now, I didn't know that I didn't know this for years, right? There's a great book I recommend called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, which is basically just a great book on psychology. Same with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all the Kiyosaki books. He really breaks down psychology, and that's what's really holding most people back. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. But it is psychology that is hindering progress for most people. Now, my story, I grew up in an environment where I probably heard the term, we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it now. A belief, if you break down a belief, it's nothing more than a repeated thought. Now, once you say something enough times, it goes from conscious to subconscious and it becomes true. Whether it's true or not, it becomes true for you. So if you are someone that always says, I can't afford it, if you are someone that says, I'll never be rich, all you're doing is just you're just perpetuating that same reality. So we got to work on your thinking. Most people have stinking thinking. And so we got to work on that psychology, because all of that separating these two worlds has nothing to do with the intellect. It has everything to do mostly with psychology. So my point is, on this side, if you grew up on this side like I did, you learned to work for money. That was the philosophy and psychology that was poured into you. If you want to make more money, you got to work hard for money. Okay, take overtime. Be the first one to show, last one to leave. Work hard, work hard. And I believe in working hard. It is noble. But I know a lot of people that are working hard that have no quality of life. They're still broke. So obviously we know that working hard is not enough. That is psychology, right? Working hard for money is a paradigm that we bought into. Now, on this side, they don't believe in working hard for money. Well, what do? This side believes in making money work hard for them. That is a primary difference in psychology. Make my money work hard for me or work hard for money. Now, money works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You could only maybe work a 12-hour day, and you need the body needs rest. So isn't it important to make sure that you understand how to make money work for you? Now look at how the contrast in capitalism, right? Check this out. This is most people, think about how we're wired. Most people on this side, we are wired to pay interest. Wired. You know, have a friend who come to me and check out my new car. That's a nice car, man. Yeah, I got a great interest rate on that car. Right? We finance everything in our society. And we don't realize that when we finance things, we really don't own it. We're just become enslaved by it. And that's what's really happening because we are wired psychologically on this side to pay interest. Over here, they are wired to earn it. That's also psychology. On this side, when it comes to capitalism, we are wired for consumerism. So if all you bring to capitalism is consumption, you're going to get slaughtered. You're going to get chewed up and spit out because if all you know is I trade time for money, and then the money that I get for the time I trade, I go and I buy things. And who do you buy it from? From this side over here. These are the producers of our society. And producers produce what consumers consume. There's people in a room right now, just like this, using a whiteboard, that are on this side that are just putting ideas on the wall on what to sell to these guys. And we're so busy working over here that we just want to go buy what these guys make. And so that's where America is right now. I always probably say the world, but what I see here in this country is we all want to look the part of what these guys have, but we're broke. As that saying goes, we all want to keep up with the Joneses, but what we don't realize is that the Joneses are broke. So something's got to give. So that's where we start talking about assets and liabilities. Where are you putting your money at? So right here, the 98% mostly puts their money in liabilities. Meaning we worked so hard, and I definitely did this in the early on years of my 20s, is I would go on a deployment through the Marine Corps, and I would come back with $15,000 to $20,000 in my savings, which is more money than I've ever saved, because when I was deployed, I was in no position to spend that money. Otherwise, I probably would have. But I would come back with $15,000 to $20,000 in my savings account, feeling fired up. And what's the first thing I did? I go buy a brand new whip right off the lot. And if you go to any military base, and I'm calling a lot of you military guys out here, especially Marines, you think CEOs live in the, based on the parking lot, you're like, wow, man, look at the CEOs live here. Always got a brand new car. I've met so many people, they're making, $2,000 a month with the $700 to $800 car payment, which is ridiculous, right? Because we want to look the part, right? We want to have a nice whip. But what we're doing is as soon as you buy that car, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it's already worth less. It's already depreciating. We want to do what these guys do is, rich people are not here for money, guys. They're here for assets. You want to live a moderate lifestyle, and you want to take extra money that you have and invest it in things that will be worth more. That's why people get into real estate, because I know over time real estate will go up. That's why people do real estate investing, especially if you're in rental income. An example of a rental income investment is like, you know what? I'm going to go buy that property right there. And let's say that property, I feel once I fix it up, do a little tweaks, I can rent it out for $2,000. So I'm going to go use the bank's money, and it's going to generate me, I'm liable for a $1,500 per month mortgage with taxes and insurance. That's on me. But I'm going to rent it for $2,000. So the tenant pays me $2,000. Out of that $2,000, I take $1,500. I pay the bank back their money, and I put $500 in my pocket. That is an asset, right? That is how the game is played. And there's people that requires no specialized degree. That requires a little bit of common sense and understanding capitalism, understanding passive income, and go out there. And how many times can you duplicate that? Infinitely. As much as you're willing to grow. That's what this is about, right? So this is what we're trying to do here is we have to start teaching this psychology here. Okay, this is why we're about here. This is the purpose of this webinar. In kind of closing here, right? We're almost kind of wrapping up here. I hope you're getting a ton of value. I hope you got a ton of value from this. I'm really passionate about this stuff, as you can tell. It's the future. The future's now. Quit waiting, quit procrastinating for your future. Do something about it. Here's my call to action, so to speak, so you really understand where do we go from here. First thing is, if you got a lot of value from this, if this was something like, wow, this was something that really struck home with me, and I want to know, how do I change my situation? I don't know. I want some feedback from you. I want to know what you're going through. Everybody's situation is different. We're here to help. We want to educate you. Education is very, very powerful. So that's what we do here, right? That's what I do. We're going to help you go from here to here through means of education. And what we offer is we can get you from here to here. And depending on your time frame, we're going to put a plan, a complementary strategy to get you from here to here over the next 10 to 30 years. Now, you may be wondering, how do we go about doing that? That's going to be a whole different video. But I want feedback from you. If you got value from this and you're like, you know what, that really speaks to me, I want to know I need the right strategy, Carlo. I need the right psychology. I need to go from here to here. I need an education. I need a financial plan. We can help you do that. And mind you, it's complimentary. It is. And I'll break that down for you. But first, I want your feedback. There's a link below. Go ahead and click on it. And I want you to answer those questions as thorough as possible. So with that being said, I really appreciate your guys' time on here. I hope you got a ton of value. Everybody needs a plan. Nobody plans to fail. It's just people fail to plan. That's all that is. So I appreciate your quality time. I look forward to building a personal relationship with you. And you can count on me to be producing more quality content like this for your learning benefit, totally complimentary. I appreciate you guys. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.